Hi, today we're here with Matt. Matt lives in a very remote location in eastern Colorado. I'm very interested in talking with people who live off the grid in different ways and have alternative lifestyles because it seems like there's an increasing amount of interest in that in the world. I've been off the grid since 2004, and so let's talk with Matt and learn how he lives. Hi, Matt.
Hey, how's it going?
It is going great. It's a pleasure to speak with you. Thank you for taking the time.
Oh, no problem.
You live way out there.
It is a bit out there. Uh, we're,
Yeah.
we're about 90 miles from the nearest traffic light, so it's a, it's a little ways out there.
Yeah. Now, it seems like there's an increased amount of interest in alternative lifestyles, in particular, getting kind of more away from civilization. Why do you think that there's an increase in interest in that?
I don't know. I think I have no interest in living in cities. I have
Uh-huh.
lived in the city for a few years, back in the 1990s, but it didn't go well with me. I grew up in a rural area, and I like living in a rural area. Uh,
Uh-huh.
I'm guessing that people are just getting fed up with the system. They're getting fed up with the rat race. I mean, I think you hit a certain age where you're just like, this is all bullshit, and I want to do something different with my life.
Right. And
And
how long have you been doing that?
uh, 18 years.
18 years. That's a serious commitment.
Yeah,
I'm sure you've learned a heck of a lot. Now, if I understand right, you have a tiny bit of electricity there, but not much.
correct.
So you're
Um,
you're sort of on the grid in a sense, but and of course the definition of being off the grid or on the grid is variable. Usually it means off the electrical grid, but also has things to do with water systems and sewer, other things. So which ways are you on the grid and which ways are you off the grid?
we kind of balance a fine line. So, like, we're technically on the grid with electricity, but the wiring it was installed during the Rural Electrification Act in the 1950s. So the wiring and all of that is really kind of old, and we haven't had the money to upgrade it all yet. So our well and our computers are currently powered by the grid, but everything else we do, like some of our cooking, our lighting, that's all off the grid. Our plumbing is kind of in that same scenario where, yes, everything, our infrastructure here is old.
Right.
So, we're kind of modifying back to when our house was built, like I think in the early 1900s, when they had an outhouse and there was no electricity, there was no running water. The people here had to, they hauled water from 6 miles away. So we actually have it pretty good. We don't have to haul water, but a lot of what we're doing is so similar to what they're doing in the 1900s, but with a little bit more modern extras.
And so are you out there all by yourself?
I am out here with my wife. Um, she's as interested in living like this as I am, probably a little bit more so.
Well,
Uh,
that's a good thing.
yeah. Uh,
Is now, do you feel like socially extremely isolated?
Exceptionally.
Exceptionally.
um, yes, I tend to be a little bit more of I'm progressively minded, and the community here, they're all ranchers and farmers. They're a lot more conservative minded. Great people, but obviously in this day and age, this particular era is really difficult in conversating with people.
Right. So there's not a lot of people, and you're culturally different than the people that are there.
Yeah.
You do have internet, and so you have some contact, what sort of social contact. And you also work online.
Yes, I work as a transcriptionist.
Excellent. I feel like that's one of the best things to gain your freedom. Even if you're a person who wants to be a digital nomad and travel around, if you can work online, you are winning big.
There's good things and bad things about it, but I guess there probably is with everything.
Yeah, I suppose so. Um, do you ever have visitors?
Rarely. Uh,
Okay.
they're mainly the people who own the house that I'm living in. They have no interest in the house, but they come out and visit every once in a while. They're good friends of mine, and yeah, so about every couple of years they'll come out and visit. But yeah, that's usually I get visitors maybe once every 2 years.
Right. Now, a lot of people with their interest in alternative lifestyles and escaping the system and living off the grid, I tend to think some of them are kind of idealistic. What would be your advice to somebody who wants to make a lifestyle change like that, and what might be surprising for them?
Uh, I think to always have a lifeboat so that you can get back to where you came from if you can. But I mean, as you know, after so many years, there is no lifeboat. You know, your lifeboat, there is no going back. Um, and I think, yeah, that hitting that point has been awakening. You know, it's enlightening that, you know, there is nothing to go back to. You know, it becomes so hard at times, but you just got to keep going forward.
Yeah, there's
Uh,
no plan B in some cases.
I mean, we've been hit by hail, tornadoes, drought, sandstorms. You know, gardening where we live is exceptionally difficult because of the wind and the bugs and lack of moisture. And then, you know, we're lucky if we get, I think this last year was my probably best year gardening. I got, I think like 9 or 10 spaghetti squash.
Right, because it's just so dry there.
Yeah, but
What's
it's
your rainfall? Do you know your rainfall
about
level?
13 inches on average annually.
Okay. And does that come at one time in the year?
Yeah, I mean, we get a little bit of, yeah, pretty much. There's a rainy season and the monsoon season in the spring and summertime, more in the summertime.
I'm just wondering if it's possible to do rain capture.
Yes, but
Okay.
the cost of the infrastructure to establish all of that, you know, the water cisterns, the gutters,
Mhm.
it is, by doing the math, if I remember correctly, I looked into it years ago, but yeah,
Right.
it's feasible, but expensive.
But expensive. Yeah. I'm on pure rainwater, so I understand that. I could not do a well where I'm at. And wells make me a little suspicious because somebody else can come in, particularly like agriculture, and they can go down and lower the water table, and all of a sudden you lose your well.
Yeah.
So that's scary.
Well, where I am, my nearest neighbor is over a mile away. And
That's helpful.
it is an ag area, and there are some people, like there's a farmer, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 miles away, who does irrigate. He's got pretty deep, you know, massive, you know, the large rotary irrigators. And I don't know, but the whole area is on the, you know, we're all pulling from the same aquifer. So it is a bit of a
Right.
concern. And I do know,
Yeah.
talking to well drillers, you know, they're going down like 300 feet now to hit water. So
Okay.
it is a bit of a, it's a matter of time.
Yeah. Now I know some people when they think about living off the grid in various ways, they imagine like self-sufficiency, which I think is ridiculous. Actually, providing everything for yourself is nearly impossible,
It's
and certainly
ridiculous.
is not even my goal. I think they're kind of imagining that you just prance around in nature and fruit falls off trees at you or something. But so you still go into the store, you go into the city and buy supplies.
No. Well, we go into town about once every 3 months.
Okay.
Actually, because out where we are, we get Amazon and we get UPS comes out.
Oh
So
wow.
there was the thought of, you know, yes, we could spend the effort, spend the fuel, spend the gas going into town to get our supplies, but we're seeing the UPS truck drive by every day. You know, he's already out
Okay.
here. So for him to drop off supplies and materials, well, that's less gas, less stress on the infrastructure, less
Right.
stress on the system.
And how much time would it take you to drive into a larger town where there's actually big stores and things?
Oh, big stores?
Yeah.
Like, define a big store.
Costco,
Oh,
Walmart, I don't know,
well, Walmart's 90 miles.
90
Costco,
miles.
Costco is like 180. Home Depot, I think, is around 200.
Okay. Now, this
One,
brings up a
that's
very
one way.
interesting point. I hadn't even occurred to me because I have real trouble getting supplies. I'm actually closer to things than you are, but there's difficulties. I live in rural Mexico. Um, Amazon changes things. Deliveries changes things. It's easier to be off the grid now
Yeah.
than it was before. And also technologies like LED lighting that let
Yeah.
you get lots more energy for less electricity, a lot more light. Um, you know, Inverters and just all kinds of systems in our own scientific knowledge has made it so that we can be offline easier. And the big one, I think, is the internet. The fact that
Yes.
we can talk from to you in a rural area like this is just amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is kind of cool. It's like out here, there, when we came out here, there was no internet. Uh, the landline that was here was the old party line, where, everybody would get on and you could hear everybody else talk.
Yeah, I
Uh,
grew up with that too.
yeah, that was still in existence. So that's what we tried first to connect to the internet to. It didn't
Uh,
go very well.
yeah.
We used a satellite dish for several years, and then, yeah, they started putting up cell phone towers. So this is all through broadband.
Yeah. As far as other systems go, what systems would you most want to improve to make your life more comfortable?
Community.
Community people.
Yeah. I mean, like you were saying, you can't do it alone. We've tried. I mean, even, I'm not alone. My wife is here, obviously, but you can spend your entire day on food production, especially here, because, getting food is so hard. And there is that thought, just flip the switch, turn off the internet. This house was built to haul water. So, I would take up the entire bulk of your day, hauling water and trying to protect your crops.
Yep.
And so, store it for the wintertime. But that's,
Yeah.
your chances of success doing it by yourself are so slim.
Right.
You're not gonna make it.
So to have community, then, would you want to try and attract like-minded people to be neighbors?
Well, there's no land for sale out here anymore.
Okay.
It's all being bought up by the larger ranching operations. And we've seen it. I mean, 20 years ago, this community was twice as big as it is now.
Wow.
From 2000 to 2010 census, the county dropped by 19%. And I suspect between 2010 and 2020, it's going to be just as large. So, like,
it's all just going to be large landowners.
Yeah, well, you can drive out here. There's a bunch of abandoned homesteads, and the few people that are still here, there's no toys in the yard. There's no children. Everybody is,
Right.
50 and up. I am actually probably the youngest person in 10 miles around.
Wow.
So, the whole community is dwindling and shrinking, and it's rural U.S. It's all falling apart.
So what are you going to do?
I don't know. Well, my plan right now is, I'm trying to increase my digital capacity, because, there is no money to be made when there's no people. I cannot just walk out my door and go look for a job. I can't go to town and look for a job. I mean, there's just no jobs there. And you have to really know somebody in order to get these jobs. You have to be part of their family, or part of, they have to have seen you grown up in school. So the only jobs we had access to were kind of lousy. The last job I had before transcribing was, we were working in a dementia unit on graveyards. And that was not a good job.
Now, there are a lot more satellites going up, and so satellite internet will become much easier in the future.
Starlink.
And I'm thinking that will actually perhaps cause more people to move to rural areas, because they still maintain that really cool connection, not just socially, but also to work online. So I'm expecting a big change.
Yeah. We'll see. Because
socializing online, of course, doesn't give you the same thing as in person.
Yeah. And that's very true. The amount of connection and all of that is really, really hard when you live remotely. And also, we know, struggling with internet issues, you can say you're going to talk, but it might be a couple of days before you can get a good signal.
I have the same problems. Have you thought about hosting volunteers and having some projects that excite them? Perhaps eco building projects, or agricultural or energy projects?
It's because the infrastructure here, the whole community wise, people don't like to come out here. I mean, and it's just such a harsh environment. People stay for a few years and they leave. It's the Dust Bowl. I mean, the people who made it after the 30s, their children are still here, but that's it. I mean, our kids left, all the kids leave. they don't want to come back.
Right.
We see massive temperature swings from day and night. It's always kind of windy. Gets really cold in the wintertime. There's a lot of bugs in the summertime. I mean, even people who want to genuinely be out here don't want to be out here sometimes.
Right.
So, and you can't escape it. If you're too hot, you're just going to be hot. If you're cold, you're just going to be cold. There's no escaping the bugs.
Would it be possible to build like earth homes out there, like adobe or
Yes.
perhaps partially buried?
Yes.
And that would provide the coolness of the earth?
Well, the house we're living in, it was quarried out of sandstone. So our walls are like 2 feet thick, made out of sandstone. And the basement that we have was originally a dugout, which I kind of think was the smart way to go. And that's what everybody out here does. The prairie dogs do it, the owls do it. Everything that lives out here lives underground. I do think that is the more economical way to go about things. But, as the settlers came out here, like, well, hey, let's build up. That's what they do out west or do out east, and, build up and be like normal people. But I think it's more energy efficient to have underground. And there is a lot of clay here. So the clay sand mixture is really, really great actually for adobe. I have played with making bricks and actually, kiln firing the clay I pulled out of the ground. And it's actually pretty decent clay. So yeah, you add in some grass, add in some clay, add in the sand, and you've got your adobe bricks.
Right. Now, when I asked about volunteers, I was imagining people that come out for 2 weeks or a month or something as an adventure. And for them, it's something different. It's not that they're coming out for years. Is that of any interest to you?
I think people find it too hard.
It's just too hard for most people. That's a tough place.
even people who come and stay in our house with us find it a little hard. Because like we don't.
And it's just the extremeness of the climate is the biggest one. The bugs and.
Well, it's completely unfamiliar. We don't have an oven. We don't have a microwave.
Right.
If you're not really familiar with cooking on fire or flame, you're gonna have a hard day.
Yeah.
There is no. We don't have a washing machine. We don't have a dryer. We don't have. Beyond the computer, we don't have that many modern conveniences. So
right.
I do think that's what it makes it hard for a lot of people. You have to be willing to let go of a lot of things, and that it's hard to do.
I know, and each person's challenge is different. Our challenges are very different. You and I live in a forest. Where you live, I guess, is grassland, or?
Yeah, we have grass. Lots of grass.
Okay. Yeah.
So lack of resources makes it a little tricky too.
And what kind of animals have you had or thought about having?
We started off with Angora, Boer, and Saining goats. We also did Angora rabbits and meat rabbits. We did chickens. We've had a lot of dogs. And out here, you cannot survive without a cat. I would say that's probably the most important thing in a survival situation is to have a cat.
Is that for rodent control?
Oh my God. Yeah. We had a episode of rats and mice. It was intense. Probably the most remarkable. I mean, it's kind of cool being out here. You get to see these things that you don't see anywhere else. But we went out. They were swarming, so we were trying to just get out one night just to get away from the mice, and it was like flocks of owls.
Uh-huh.
I mean, we couldn't even go down the road because there was this mice just going across the road like crazy, and the owls and the headlights. I mean, there must have been hundreds and hundreds of owls swooping down, picking up off the mice. I've never seen. I mean, usually you only see 1 or 2 owls at most. And there must have been, like I said, like hundreds. And yeah.
Maybe the biggest benefit from doing what you're doing is that it's kind of an adventure. I mean, a lot of people they live in their condo or their apartment and they work in a cubicle and they play video games and, you're out there being stomped on by the weather, invaded by animals. And that might be, I don't know, it seems kind of exciting. I'm sure day to day it might not be, but it sounds like you've got a lot of stories to tell.
Well, I kind of look at, life is a choose your own adventure. You you're either going to experience, you're going to, what's the word? You're going to only accept as much stress as you're comfortable with. So like if you're living in the city and you're living in, in a condo, I find that very stressful. The noise, the stress of, got to pay the mortgage, got to pay the bills, got to use the alarm clock because you got to have meetings and appointments and all these commitments you have to do that you probably don't really want to do. We're out here, our commitments are completely different and the stress is completely different. So, the commitment is, to the soil, to the water, to making sure that I'm not making a mistake and, inviting some kind of calamity because I've done that. I don't want to do it again. I mean, like
Right.
out here, you till up the soil, the next thing you get is tumbleweeds and thistles.
Mhm.
And it's not, you leave it alone, you get grass. That's kind of the thing. So I don't know. It is a stressful existence, but then I kind of think everybody's is.
Yeah, it's life, I guess. One of the things that's on people's mind a lot is climate change and ecological footprint. Your ecological footprint is probably very, very low.
Yeah, I try to be. That's something that means it has a lot of importance to me to keep my consumption levels as low as I can.
Right,
Um,
right.
as a transcriptionist, I mean, I hear stories from all around the world.
Mhm.
And I hear the impacts of what's going on in the environment. I do land use surveys for like the Inuit and First Nations in Canada. I hear what's going on, in the mining communities and oil and gas, and I know the impact I play in as a consumer.
Mhm.
So I'm very conscious of what I try to bring into our house because also where we live, there is no trash disposal.
Right.
So, everything we bring into the house, it stays unless I can figure out how to reuse it. So that
I
also,
think that sounds very attractive to a lot of people. I think you're living the dream that a lot of people have, and they don't always know how to get there.
yeah,
Um, I don't think yet that everybody has to go live the way you do in order to reduce their impact. I think they can start where they're at with their choices of how they eat and what they consume and what kind of building they live in and what energy it takes. But I think that a lot of people would admire what you're doing a lot. You're very hardcore by most people's standards.
but then again, I think it's just, like I said, it's choose your own adventure. I think people who live in cities, I can't do that. I'm not built that way. It drives me insane. I can't. I, I, I don't know. I don't do well in cities. I haven't been to a city. I haven't driven under a traffic light. Like I mean, I've ridden in vehicles. People come and visit, and I might go riding with them. But I haven't physically driven myself under a traffic light. I think 7, 8 years.
Wow, that's very impressive.
I'm not safe in cities. I have no business driving in cities. I would drive people insane. I'll probably have an accident.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm the
Um,
same way. I go to the city and I feel dirty and disturbed because I feel like there's just too many people around me and there's cars everywhere. So I understand that.
yeah.
Um, well, cool. Let's wrap it up. Thank you for sharing your adventure. I think that the adventure you choose is unusual, and it's the dream of a lot of people. So it's great for you to share as much as you can about how you do it, and even if other people don't want to do it the way you're doing it, I think it's inspiring.
Yeah. I hope so. I think people have the opportunity to make a lot of changes in their lives. And I think, number one, you kind of have to wake up and be mindful to what is going on in the world and to realize that you do have a real impact in your actions, in your daily actions. That,
Right.
every time, you've got a choice to make with everything you touch, everything you do, everything you purchase.
Great.
And I think just people being mindful of that, of, not doing things mindlessly, I think can make a huge impact.
Yeah, I think that's personal responsibility. So many people are frustrated and they want some change to happen somewhere else. And the most powerful place they can make it is in their own life. That's what they
Yeah.
can control. So I'm with you on that completely. I want people to hear that message. I want them to not, I mean, they're so frustrated, a lot of them, and I want them to find hope that they have the power to make change. So
Yeah.
it's cool you're doing it. You're, in a sense, a leader, especially as we do this kind of interview or any videos or things you can write online. I think that you'll be helping people directly to do things in a very different way.
I hope so.
Yeah. Cool. Well, it's a pleasure talking with you, Matt. I'm going to follow your adventures. I hope you do make more videos and things to share your lifestyle. And we'll just keep learning from each other.
Sounds good.
Thanks for your time, man.
All right. I'm going to stop recording now.